Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bad Taste Hour of the Year. The Guru International Back Bar proudly presents King Billy Coke Bottle.
Oh, Mark, I've got to tell you all the story about Cornell. There's a place in Sydney, you know, and I've got to tell you how that place got its name. Long, long time ago in the Dreamtime when that Captain Cook fella, he sailed down the bottom of Australia. He's hit that Tasmania, ricocheted up that east coast, and come to this place called Cornell in Botany Bay, man. What happened is my old grandfather, great-grandfather Coke Bottle, he was there to meet him. He was there waving a Union Jack. Anyway, they grabbed the Captain Cook fella, lifted him up out of the boat, carried him over there to the Australian soil. They put him on the ground, and with this, the grandfather Coke Bottle, he marched up to him. Captain Cook fella reached out with his hand to shake his hand. Grandfather Coke Bottle stepped back and he speared him right between the legs. And he said, "Ah, Cornell." Okay, well, I've got to tell you something that happened the other day on the station. Morton jumped out of his sleeping bag, screaming, "Crikey, Billy, quick, get the flying doctor. Snake's just biting me. He's biting on my snake. Quick, get the flying doctor." So anyway, I gone over to that and got on the pedal wires, you know. So I'm pedaling away there. I said, "That the flying doctor?" He said, "Yep." I said, "Look, my brother Morton, he's been bitten by a snake. What am I going to do?" He said, "Look, what you got to do is you got to make an incision across the snake bite and suck out the poison." Oh, right. Anyway, he said, "Then I'll be there in about an hour to come pick him up." So anyway, what'll happen if I don't do that? He said, "He'll die." Oh, so anyway, I hung up, walked out there's Morton wriggling on the ground. He said, "What'd he say, Billy? What'd he say?" He said, "You're going to die." Yeah, one day Morton, he's sitting on his rock and he's got the clapsticks there going like that, you know, singing the song. "Oh, back of me, good Andy, when you're again, trouble face." And all of a sudden, a spaceship come along. And the Martians are looking out, seeing Morton sitting on his rock, you know. And I thought, let's do an experiment on the Morton. Let's take a quarter of his brain away with a laser gun and see what effect it has. So I went and hit him in the head, you know, with a laser gun. Morton's only got 3/4 of his brain left, but he's still gone. "Oh, back of me, good Andy." I said, "Oh, let's take another quarter of his brain away." So I went, zap him again. I only got half a brain. Morton's still gone. "Oh, back of me, good Andy." I said, "Oh, let's zap him again. Take another quarter of his brain away." So I zap him again. He take another quarter of his brain. I only got 1/4 of his brain left. He's still gone. "Oh, back of me, good Andy." I said, "That's it. Let's zap him total. Take his total brain away." So and he went, "Comity, cora." Oh, Morton the other day, you know, he's gone to the doctor because he's constipated. He said, "Oh, doctor, hey, mate, I can't go in there, but shit, mate, you gotta fix me up." He said, "Well, for a starter," he said, "what have you been eating?" He said, "Snooker balls." I said, "Snooker balls? How can you eat snooker balls?" He said, "Oh, easy." He said, "In the morning," he said, "I'll get a couple of reds," he said, "and I boil them up, you know, have them hard boiled." He said, "Then for lunch," he said, "I normally, you know, go and get a brown one, a couple of reds," he said, "and I sort of do a roast, you know." I said, "Oh, no." He said, "And then for dinner," he said, "I might get myself a blue and a yellow and a couple more reds." He said, "And I have them as a big pie, you know." He said, "Oh, well, that's your problem." He said, "What's that?" He said, "You're not eating enough greens." Oh, the other day when me and Morton were talking about when we were little kids in Kalgoorlie, you know, there's a famous street there called I Street. Anyway, we was camped over the road, you know, and all of a sudden we seen this bloke come walking down the road with a $20 note in his hand. And he'd knocked on the door, you know, and the woman had come out there and she got a cigarette hanging out of her lip and got a negligee there, you know, you can see them in Tasmania. Anyway, what happened is that the lady would come out and say, "Yes, love." And the bloke would hand her the $20 and he'd go in there and, oh, about half an hour later he'd come out, a big smile on his face and all shaky in the legs, you know. Well, Morton said to me, he said, "Hey, Billy, I wonder what's going on over the road there." He said, "Well, let's go find out. I've got $1.20. What you got?" He said, "I've got $1.07. I said, "That's $3. Let's go over there, mate." So anyway, Morton, he's knocking on the door. Sure enough, door open, the lady standing there with a cigarette hanging out the lip, you know. Morton looked up at her and he said, "Hey, I got $3. What are you going to give me?" She said, "Come in, darling." And she grabbed Morton and slammed the door in my face. With this, he spun around and got Morton, kicked him in the head. kneed him in the balls, picked him up over the head and threw him on the ground, and then turned him around and threw him out the door and onto the ground. I ran up to Morton, I dusted him off, you know. I said, Morton, you okay? Oh, I said, crying. What's going on in there? He said, I don't know what's going on in there. He said, but I'm sure glad I didn't have $20. Yeah, well, I've got to tell you a story about Morton when he was working at the zoo. He had the spear there because it was a very professional spear, you know, thrower. And they were walking around just picking up all the papers for the zoo. Well, anyway, they're coming up to the school holidays, and the male gorilla in the zoo, he died. And the female gorilla, she getting nice and angry every time the guy coming there to clean out the cage. The female gorilla just smash the zookeeper up and dip his head in the water and chuck him around. So they thought there's something wrong here. We can't have this gorilla behaving like this with the kids coming around to see him in the school holidays. So they went and got a big meeting and got the book out on gorillaism, you know, to see what's going on with this gorilla. Sure enough, they read up there that, like the female species of the human race, female gorillas too, if they don't get looked after, they get grumpy, you know. So they thought, well, we better get another male gorilla. So they advertised everywhere around Asia and America looking for a spare gorilla. But no gorillas available. They're all booked up. So they thought, oh, what are we going to do now? So they went and had another meeting, got the book out on gorillaism again, and they find out that maybe they could get a person to make love to this gorilla, because of being like a human being, you know. So they went advertised everywhere. Come on, somebody's got to make love to a gorilla for $5,000. But not one answer, not even a poem. Nothing. So it was this. I thought, oh, well, we'll have a look around. There's Morton. We'll offer him the job. I said, hey, Morton, come here. So Morton come up over to the fly-wide door. I said, yeah, boss. He said, how would you like to make love to a gorilla for $5,000? Morton said, oh, I've got to think about that. All right. He said, I'll do it on 3 conditions. He said, what's that? Well, he said, firstly, he said, I don't want it, you know, printed in the papers, because that ain't good, you know, that's bad for your image, you know, because I don't like that. He said, and secondly, he said, I don't want it on the TV, because that's not doing us any good, and my relations might see it, you know, that's not good. All right, what's the 3rd condition? He said, the 3rd condition, he said, I'd like 6 months to raise the $5,000. Yeah, well, there's this tribe, you know, over in Africa called the Unga Bunga tribe. They're sort of related to us, but what happened is people got caught over there. This Morton relayed the story to me. The businessman and all that got caught by the Unga Bunga tribe, and they're sitting in the hut there, and all they could hear was the Unga Bunga, you know, and they're wondering what's going on. And all of a sudden, the door of the hut swung open, and the chief said to this bloke, he said, yo, Unga Bunga or death? And this bloke said, oh, crikey, anything's better than death. Give me some Unga Bunga. So they wrestled him out, ripped his pants off, put him over a barrel, and these 3 big buck Negroes come out of another hut and done this up the backside, you know, and they've gone, Unga Bunga, Unga Bunga, and everybody throwing the spears away. Oh, crikey. So they come back to the next bloke and said, yo, Unga Bunga or death? And the guy said, He said, I'd love some Unga Bunga. He said, I ain't had any Unga Bunga since I left Qantas. So they took him in there, and it's on again, you know, going, Unga Bunga, Unga Bunga, and all throwing the spears around. I come back with the 3rd bloke, he said, yo, Unga Bunga or death? The bloke said, listen, I happen to be a very respectable businessman, and if my associates and colleagues have found out that I've been Unga Bunga'd, I might as well be dead. He said, so I'll have death. He said, right, death by Unga Bunga. Yeah, Morton the other day, it was 3 in the morning, and he's rung up his vet. He said, hey, mate, my dog is stuck. He's double-decker, mate. What am I going to do? I said, well, look, he said, just get a broom handle and whack him one with that. That sort of unknot him. Anyway, so Morton hung up. He went and got the broom handle and he smashed him to bits, you know. He got back on the phone. He said, hey, mate, my dog is still stuck. He said, well, he could get a bucket of water and throw that over him. So Morton hung up, got a bucket of water and nearly drowned the dog, you know, but he's still stuck. So he got back on the phone again. He said, hey, mate, that dog of mine is still stuck. He said, well, tell him he's wanted on the phone. I said, what? I said, yeah, tell him he's wanted on the phone. He said, will that work? I said, well, it worked for me. Yeah, I got to tell you a Dreamtime story about when me and Morton were playing football, you know. And after a hard day's football training, we went to sleep on the road. A big truck ran over us, you know. So next thing we're going up to the pearly gates. And some Peter fella, he come out there, he said, what do you want? I said, we want to come in. He said, bullshit, mate, no niggas coming in here. I said, hang on, that's a racial discrimination. We demand to come in. Sorry, mate, no niggers coming in here. He said, what do you mean? That's all the Lord's changed. You've got to let us in. I said, mate, this place is only for white people and VIPs. Well, Morton looked at me and said, where's VIPs? Where's champion football players? Where's played for all the outback teams and even been in the reserves for North Melbourne, mate? Where's the demand to come in? Nope, fuck off. And he slammed the gates in their face, you know. So with this, St. Peter walked out the back and Gord said to him, he said, what was all that racket about? He said, I said, some nigger football players trying to get in, but I told them to piss off. He said, you're joking. He said, we got the Celestial Cup Grand Final on Sunday. He said, we're a couple of players short. He said, go and get them. Anyway, he went out there, come back 10 minutes later. He said, they're gone. He said, what, the nigger football players? He said, no, the gates. Yeah, Morton the other day, he decided to get himself a bank loan, you know, so he didn't have a gun, so he went and got himself Uncle Wood, you know, a bit of 4x4, you know, and he thought, I'll go and rob the bank with that. So he marched in the bank, said the bloke, he said, right, mate, there's a robbery, give us all your money. He said, you got a gun? He said, no, mate, but I got this Uncle Wood here, mate. He said, you can't rob a bank with an Uncle Wood. Morton said, I can, so you watch, mate. So he jumped up there and he started smashing all the glass about a cubicle up, and next thing he jumped over the counter and started whacking the bank teller, and he whacking him, breaking his collarbone and everything. And Morton standing over the top of him. Bloke looked up and he said, hey, listen, mate, you better get yourself a gun. He said, you're going to kill somebody with that Uncle Wood. Yeah, well, Morton is in the bar the other day and he's getting really drunkard, you know, and he's come walking out the pub there and there's a copper. He's directing the traffic because the traffic light's broken down. So Morton, he staggered up to him in the middle of the road. He said, Got him. He said, look, somebody's gone and stolen the car right off the end of my key ring. He said, listen, look, I'm trying to direct traffic here. He said, look, get back over on that footpath. He said, I'll deal with you in a minute. He said, by the way, he said, do your flyer. He looked down there and said, crikey, he said, the boss has stolen my girlfriend as well. Morton one day on the Wattagattabee station woke up to the noise of this moaning and groaning going on from under the seat of galvanised iron, you know. So he lifted back, and there was his wife, Jiddigan, having a baby. He said, crikey, baby coming. The baby lobbed, and sure enough, it was white. Oh, shit! White baby? Hang on, ain't a white bloke around here for 20,000 square miles. It's got to be the station boss. Got to be him having his way with my wife. So he marched up to the homestead, up on the veranda and started punching shit out the flywire door. With this, the boss come out, he said, yeah, Morton, what can I do for you? He said, my wife just had a baby, and it's white. He said, congratulations. He said, must be albino. He said, ain't no albino, mate. I'm not stupid. Albino's got pink eyes. He said, I know it's you, mate. You've been sticking in my wife. He said, no, mate. No, maybe it's a throwback, Morton. He said, ain't no throwback, only Negro throwback. I'm not stupid, I got mission upbringing. It's got to be you. You've been sticking in. And a white bloke around here for 20,000 square miles, it's got to be you. But with this, he saw he wasn't getting through to Morton, so he stepped down on the veranda. He said, Morton, maybe it's like this. Sure, I got 20,000 square miles. He said, and I got 10,000 sheep. He said, and every now and then, he said, I'll get a black one. Morton said, all right, I'll shut up about the baby, you shut up about the sheep. I remember years ago, when we was at Warburton Mission out in West Australia, old elder of our tribe, he was dying, and he knew the only place where we could find the alluvial gold, you know, so if we short of money, we'd just go find a bit of this gold. Anyway, what happened, he was on his deathbed, and we all went to the hospital there waiting for the doctor to come out and tell us maybe what he said in his last words, because he's got to pass on the secret to us. So he walked up to the old fella. He said, how are you today, mate? And the old fella said, I don't know about you. He said, what? What a... I said, what was that? He said, what a... Gone. Dead, mate. So he come out in the veranda and break the news to our family. He said, the old fella, he's gone now, dream time. He said, well, did he say anything before he went? He said, yeah, actually he did. He said, what a garbage. Me look at Morton. Morton look at me. Look back at him and he said, well, what does it mean? He said, it means you're standing on this bloody oxygen cord, you silly old bastard. I remember when Morton was sent by the tribe, he had to go into the big smoke and find out what the white people were doing, you know, and he going away for about 6 weeks and he coming back and He said, well, all the elders there and that, all the grandfathers all said, well, Morton, what did you find out about the big smoke? He said, look, I got to tell you, mate. The white fella, they got these big buildings there, these big humpies, mate. And in there they sell the grog. He said, and then, he said, they also play this game. I said, what game then, mate? He said, it's like a cobweb on the wall, mate, and I got the 3 little spears, you know. So they asked me, they said, Morton, you want to throw one of these little spears at that cobweb? So I said, yeah, mate. So I got the little spear and I chucked him, mate, and he going straight in the middle. Everybody going mad, yelling and screaming and buying the grog and, crikey. So anyway, I said, can you do it again? I said, yeah, mate. So they give me another one, a little spear, and I chuck him and he going in the middle. Oh, that's fantastic. And everybody yelling and screaming and buying more grog. He said, well, do you think you can do it again? So they give me the last little spear, and I chuck that one. And he going in the middle, and all yelling and screaming and drinking some more grog. He said, that's a very interesting story, Morton. And what did white fella call this game? He said, I'm not quite sure, but he said, I think I heard somebody call it you arsey black bastard. Yeah, I remember one day, me, Morton and Albert, we was walking down the road and we seen this pig in the fence, you know. He was all stuck up in the wire. Anyway, I walked up to him and patted him on the backside and I said, geez, I wish this pig was Gina Lollabrigida. Well, Albert, he's walked up there and he's rubbed the pig on the backside too. He said, geez, he said, I wish this was that Wreck of Welsh. Well, Morton, he'd walk up to the pig and he said, geez, I wish it was dark. Yeah, one day Morton, he'd driving down the road, he'd drunk with a grog, and anyway, the coppers pull him over, you know. He said, right, Morton, you're drunk. He said, no, mate, I'm okay. He said, no, you've got to give us a breath analysis. I said, what do you mean? He said, you've got to breathe in that bag. He said, I can't do that. He said, I got a letter here from the asthma people that said that I'm asthmatic, and he said, if I blow in there, I could black out. He said, well, you're going to have to give us a blood sample then. He said, no, I can't do that, mate. He said, I got a letter here from the Red Cross people said that I'm this imminent bleed to death prick. Anyway, that's what he said. He said, well, okay, then he said, well, you're going to have to give us a urine sample. He said, no, I can't do that. He said, don't tell me you got a letter for that. He said, yeah, it's from the government. Said you whites can't take the piss out of us blacks. I remember when I went to school in Meekasara with the Jitigan and Jeddah, and there was Albert and Morton and all that. And one day the teacher come along and said, right, children, I want you to go home and study tonight the letters of the alphabet, because tomorrow I'm going to ask for a letter of the alphabet. I want you to give me an animal that starts with that letter, and you've got to spell it and give us the noise that makes, that animal. So all the kids, they all went home and studied it all night and come back to school the next day, and the teacher stood up there and said, right, children, who out there can give me an animal with the letter D? Well, Jitigan jumped up and said, I know that, miss. I know that. That's a dog. Spelled D-O-G. So that's very good. And what noise does the dog make? Jitigan said, that bark, miss, like this. Said, what? Like that. I said, that's very good. All right, children, who out there can give me an animal with the letter H? Albert jumps up and said, I know that, miss. I know that. That's a horse, miss. That's a horse. I said, all right, well, how do you spell the horse? He said, O-R-S-E. He said, well, you're close. He said, well, anyway, give us the noise that horse makes. He said, that ain't nine, miss. I go like this. Like that. He said, that's very good. All right, children, who out there can give me an animal with letter P? Morton jumps up. He said, I know that, miss. I know that, miss. There's a pig. Spelled a P-R-G. She said, that's very good. And what noise do the pigs make, Morton? He said, they go like this, miss. Get out of that car, you black bastard, and put your hands in the air. I remember one day Morton, he was on this station, you know, and the old station boss come up to him and said, Morton, he said, I've given that ram over there a needle. He said, I want you to go and sit in the paddock all night and count how many times that ram stick him in. So anyway, Morton is sitting in the paddock, he coming up to the homestead the next morning, eyes hanging out of his head, got some old matchstick under his eyelid. He said, boss, he said, good ram that one, boss. Last night he stick him in 573 times, mate. He gone back second sometime, boss. He's a bloody good ram. He said, that's very good, Morton. He said, now go to your bunk. He said, hey, boss. He said, you couldn't give me a needle like that, could you, boss? said, no, why? He said, that's only for animals. He said, yeah, but boss, you don't understand. He said, I've got all these gins coming into town, and we're going to have a huge, big flagging party, and I've got to perform, mate. You've got to give it needle. He said, no, mate, piss off. Well, all week, he pestered and pestered, and he said, you've got to give it needle, got to give it needle. I got all the girls coming, mate. He said, all right, we'll bend over, so he jabbed him in the backside, Morton went away. Come back on the Monday morning, the old school bus pulled up down the end of the drive and dropped him off, and Morton picked himself up and staggered all the way up to the homestead, and the boss looked at him and said, Morton, you look terrible. He said, yeah, I know, boss. I've been injured. I said, what? I've been injured, I'll show you, boss. So he's undone his fly, This thing fell out, looked like mincemeat, He said, oh, Morton, that's terrible. He said, yeah, mate, I know. He said, you gotta give me some liniment, boss, liniment. He said, liniment ain't gonna fix that. He said, ain't for that, mate, it's for me wrist. He said, the gins didn't turn up.